Good morning. I want to invite you to please find your seat, and for those of you who are enjoying breakfast already, just invite you to continue to enjoy your breakfast. So glad you're with us this amazingly beautiful February morning as we continue or head towards the end of schizophrenic winter in Nashville, Tennessee. But so glad you're with us. If this is your first Nashville Business Breakfast, we hope you'll come back. This is one of our quarterly events, and we're grateful that you're here on the campus of Lipscomb University. A couple of things I just want to call your quick attention to in the program that was at your table. First of all, you'll notice that our next program is scheduled for April 20th. Senator Bob Corker will be with us for that event Friday morning, April the 20th. Hope you can join us for that event. And then also, a little less than a month from today on campus, the College of Business here at Lipscomb is featuring a program involving Frank Harrison, the CEO of Coca-Cola, March 22nd, and you'll see that in your program as well. So just wanted to note those for you and certainly invite you back to the business breakfast in April with Senator Corker and invite you to the College of Business program with Frank Harrison. Again, we're grateful that you are with us this morning. As always, it's my privilege to introduce and thank our partner in this program, the Nashville Business Journal. They are such a key part of this program. Lipscomb is grateful to be able to partner with them as we enjoy this business breakfast 4 times a year. Kate Herman, the publisher of the Business Journal, who is typically here with us, is under the weather this morning. So in her stead to introduce the sponsors for this morning's program is Michelle Friedenberg. So would you please join me in welcoming Michelle Friedenberg from the Nashville Business Journal.
Good morning. I'm pleased to introduce you to our sponsors of today's program, Crowe Horwath and PNC Bank. Speaking for Crowe Horwath is Dwayne Dillard, partner. Dwayne.
Thanks, Michelle. Good morning and welcome to the Nashville Business Breakfast. Always a pleasure to be here. Crowe Horwath is a top 10 public accounting and consulting firm. As you can imagine, we're pretty busy this month. Please excuse my team over here if they pull out their laptops and start working on tax returns. Just kind of ignore them. They can't help themselves. It's just that time of year. I'm happy to announce Crowe was recognized earlier this month by Fortune magazine as one of the top 100 best places to work. So we're pretty excited about that this month. But again, thank you for being here. Hope you enjoy your breakfast and hope you can make it again next time. Thank you.
And now I'd like to introduce you to Doreen Langley, Senior Vice President of PNC Bank.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming out. I'd like to thank the Lipscomb and National Business Journal for their help in getting us set together here this morning. PNC is, again, a proud sponsor to be here with you today. PNC is a large bank with a large voice, but we are that Main Street bank that kind of helps you get things done. And in today's environment, more than ever, it's great to be a client that can be heard. So we're ready to grow. We're here to grow. We can grow, and we're here to meet your business needs. So again, thank you for joining us this morning.
Okay, please enjoy your breakfast, and we'll be back with the rest of the program shortly.
Once again, I want to welcome you. We're grateful that you are here this morning. We want to begin our program. We're looking forward to hearing from our speaker this morning. Again, it is a beautiful February morning, and we're grateful that you're here. One other additional item I'll call your attention to, and you may have seen it up on the PowerPoint. Don't look up there now. But please text questions. If you have, there will be a Q&A session after Doug finishes speaking to us, but so if you have questions that you'd like to text in at the bottom of the front page of the program, you'll see those instructions. For those of you who work in downtown Nashville, or maybe actually the Cool Springs area as well, you're probably familiar with the logo Spark, which is a learning center that Lipscomb has created, first of all in Cool Springs several years ago, and then this past September, the Spark downtown facility was opened. And for those of you who know it or have been in that space, it is a remarkable space. It's a leadership resource for downtown Nashville. It's a place where meetings are held, where executive education occurs, training, facilitation, and I would invite you to learn more about Spark if your company, your leadership might benefit from something off campus or some various types of training that goes on at Spark. Since September, there's been 3,600 plus people that have either gone through some form of training or program at Spark in downtown Nashville alone, and that doesn't even begin to talk about the numbers of folks who have benefited from the Spark facility in Cool Springs. But we invite you to learn more about Spark and would welcome you to come visit either of those locations. And in that regard, our invocation, our opening prayer this morning, we've invited Michael Weingart, who is the current CEO, the executive director of our Spark Idea Center, both in Cool Springs and in the downtown facility. Mike Weingart was born and raised in Germany, and his business career has spanned across Europe and the United States, but we are privileged to have him now as a part of the Lipscomb community and leading Spark as the executive director. Would you please join me in welcoming Mike Weingart?
Let's pray together. Dear Heavenly Father, you have blessed our places of work and those we come in contact with. May our businesses reflect your provision, abounding in service and respect for others. Grant us discernment to make wise decisions that are guided by your Spirit, so that peace and creativity can flourish, bringing glory to your name. For the mid-state students, the Lipscomb students traveling on mission trips next week all over the country and all over the world, we ask for safety, protection, and open hearts. And may the seeds that you plant on these trips take root and bear fruit for years to come. We're grateful for this food and for this fellowship. And we pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Well, good morning to all of you. It's a joy to have you here and to anticipate a wonderful presentation in just a few moments. You're actually sitting on a basketball floor. 12 hours ago on this basketball floor, we opened the Atlantic Sun Championship for this year, hosted the first game. If you thought about where you might be sitting, you would have been right in the middle of the fray. At halftime, we were a point ahead, playing Stetson, which is the school that our coach Casey Alexander was stolen from just a few years ago. A good bit of rivalry, a lot of fun. I was a little concerned. We were up by 16 and by halftime only ahead by 1, and wondering what in the world would happen, but they came back in the second half and won by 16. And so the second round of the Atlantic Sun will be here Thursday night, and want to extend a special invitation to all of you to come be a part of that. Our women will also open their first round of the Atlantic Sun Championship on Friday night. It's really just a bit of a basketball week here at Lipscomb, and come see it, come be a part of it. It is our special invitation to you. This is an interesting month that we're now ending. On a university campus, we have spent a good bit of time thinking about African American history. And as we celebrate that month, we pause to think about our community and the efforts and progress we are making as a community. I was reading last night about a meeting that Martin Luther King went to at the Butler Street YMCA in Atlanta, where he shared with that community and those leaders that could meet with him in that private place something about the nature of the community, about the evils or challenges that we faced, and then summed it up perhaps with this quote, which I think is worthy of us to think about. As community leaders, we gather, and we are now part of the second struggle. The first civil rights struggle lasted a dozen years or so, and that's the one that ended legal segregation. But the second struggle is much more complex and much more difficult. It's the struggle not only with African American but other minority groups to provide complete equality and to create the community that we can dream about. He said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." And so as we assemble at the end of this special and important month, we pause to think about what we do as the leaders of this community in that regard. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker this morning. Any of us that live much of a life have a lot of reason to appreciate the work that he does and to appreciate every day as we fly in and out of the airport, something we probably take for granted, and yet it's something that is a real benefit to our community. I was thinking this morning that as students come to this university from 57 countries, virtually all of them, Doug, will come on an airplane. And their first impression of their new college will not be this campus, but it will be the airport and their transportation. And as I think about students who are here, 900 each year will go do mission trips in 25 different countries. They all leave from the airport. And we have that moment of pause and prayer as they get ready to go off to sometimes a dangerous part of the world, but they leave this town and return to this town because of the airport. So this morning we welcome Doug Kreulen, who is the president and CEO of our airport. He was the chief operating officer until just a couple of years ago. He has a long, distinguished career in the Air Force, which you can read about. What I sense in meeting him and looking at that bio is that we have someone who's very capable of being in charge. And that's a comforting thing to know, and comforting to know that you bring your experience and all that you are and all that you have learned to the benefit of this city. Would you please welcome our speaker this morning, Doug Kreulen.
Thank you, Dr. Lowry, for that introduction and for the opportunity to speak at Lipscomb. And thank you also to the Nashville Business Journal for this opportunity. I also pray for those students that they arrive and depart on time and that they get their bags wherever they're going. So it's a great opportunity to come here today. I'm blessed to have this opportunity, and I'm thankful for that as well. I'm also thankful to be head of the Airport Authority and what it means to this community. And I hope to give you a little bit of that insight today on what we're doing for you at your airport to continue to build an airport that you're proud of, that's warm and welcoming, that does outstanding job for customer service, but's able to keep up with your growth. And so today when we talk a little bit about rising to the challenge, it's the challenge of keep up with Nashville. And how is your airport trying to keep up with Nashville? And so we'll go through that and talk about it. An amazing opportunity. I'll be running through some slides here, and I know we'll sit down and do a little interview panel after we get going. I'll give you a little bit about my background as we get going. Let's see. Oops. No, that's a better slide. Let me back up one. That won't back up. All right. I came in as a young whippersnapper in the Air Force 27 plus years ago, and I thought that I was going to be cool, pilot, invincible. And after 27 years of moving around the airport, you end up looking like that guy right there. So I've had a lot of great assignments in my career. You can see some of them up here. I entered the Air Force after living with mom and dad for my first 18 years. My dad was an Army officer, and we moved around a great deal. I went to Auburn University. I know there's some big fans for Auburn University down in the audience here, but the Air Force was very good to me. Took me a long road, moved 14 times in 27 years. And the different leadership assignments that I had there, the Air Force did a great job, I think, of trying to mentor me as I was growing up in the aviation career field and giving me different leadership opportunities. My first chance to run an organization was in Saudi Arabia after the first Gulf War, where we were enforcing the Iraqi no-fly zone. A couple years later, I was a commander in Ramstein Air Base, Germany, and we did most of the missions for Allied force into Bosnia and Herzegovina time period. I was lucky after graduating or finishing that tour to go to the National War College in Washington, D.C. If you go to the National War College, one of the things that you have to do is a joint assignment at the Pentagon afterwards. So I was in charge of the Readiness Division at the Pentagon for the Joint Staff, and was at the Pentagon on 9/11 when American Flight 77 hit the building. I left the Pentagon after 2002 to go to Little Rock, where the picture that you see on the right side of the screen of the C-130s, I was responsible for the Department of Defense's training program for all of the C-130s for all the different services in the United States. And then probably one of my most fond assignments was over in Japan, outside of Tokyo, at a base called Yokota Air Base, Japan, where we ran the mobility center for any contingency that the military had to do over in the Asian Pacific region. Finally, my last Air Force assignment was at the Air Force Academy, and you might be asking, what's an Auburn guy doing at the Air Force Academy? But it was a great opportunity to be able to see the other way that people enter the military service, and anybody that graduates from a military academy, they've earned that education, and it's a great opportunity for them. And I was blessed to retire there out of Colorado Springs. Equally blessed after a military career to have Huntsville International Airport, a couple hours south of here, give me the opportunity to run their operations. And then the longest place I've ever lived in my life is Nashville. When I moved here in 2012, I've been blessed to be here and see the growing community at Nashville as the COO for 5 years, and then a couple months into this as the Chief Executive Officer. So that's a little bit about my background, and the staff would probably tell Dr. Lowry he's not afraid to make a decision. So we'll show you some of the decisions that we're making right now and how we think we're building a better airport for you. Next slide. Okay. This is your airport. These are some of the probably facts and figures that you don't see that very often. We have 4,000 plus acres at B&A, and it takes about that much property to hold those 4 runways that we talk about. We have 13 airlines that fly in and out of the airport every day. 422 of those are flights that you see going out of here every day are commercial flights. There's a lot of other flights that go in and out of here. The vice president, military flights come in and out, corporate, general aviation flights come in there every day. An important number to look at is that 206,000. That's how many operations that go on every day or throughout the year at the airport. An operation is either a takeoff and landing. If you do some calculations, what you'll find out is that between every 13 seconds or 23 seconds, a plane is taken off and landing at Nashville International Airport. So it's a very busy operation. I think we do a pretty good job of keeping things moving, get the students to where they need to go, but it's busy. As we continue to grow, we're going to talk about that challenge of growth here in Nashville in just a second. You can see that we have an 88,000 square foot terminal right now. That's what we're about to grow, and we'll run through that process there. when we get done with this presentation, I hope that you'll understand that what we're doing is going to take that 888,000 square foot terminal and it'll be about 1.4 million square feet. The challenge for us, and challenge is growth, challenge is keeping the airport operating, is I need to grow the airport while letting 14 million guests come in and out of there on a day-to-day basis. We have 43 gates today. In order to keep up with the growth, we'll add additional gates and be in the 49 range. Next slide. This is where we fly to today. We have 52 nonstop destinations, and the reason that we have 52 is because of the business community that's out here. If you express that need for a destination to support your business, or we find out that there's a lot of leisure travel going in that area, that's where our team, I think Trudy Carson is here somewhere, that is our Director of Air Service. We go out and fight for what the city of Nashville needs. We've been lucky to add a lot of West Coast flights lately. Our top targets that you see up there on that slide are based on your needs. We're number one is Portland, Oregon right now, and that's primarily healthcare industry and healthcare IT. They want a nonstop flight to Portland. So that's the largest number of people moving through the airport today on a place that we don't serve is Portland. Richmond, Virginia is a large banking industry area. That's our number 2 target. We're trying to get direct flights to Richmond, Virginia. And I would make a plug for what was advertised last week. You need to fly nonstop from B&A to Atlanta on Southwest. So they'll get mad if I don't say that to you. And then I'm the only one in this room right now that doesn't have a second home in Fort Myers, Florida. So there's the first 2 are business-related priorities. The third one is there's apparently a lot of people in Nashville that have second homes in Fort Myers, Florida, and that's why that's our number 3rd. I hope everybody in here already has a ticket on the inaugural flight to London for May 4th. If not, there's more flights right after that. 5 times a week we'll be going to London, England, nonstop. 8 hours and 5 minutes, you'll arrive Nashville, direct nonstop to London Heathrow. When that flight was announced in the August time period last year, we've been busy recruiting and making improvements to the airport, which we're going to show you about. The state provided some incentive money, the city provided incentive money, but the airport is a large player. Regardless of any of those incentives, we're doing about $10.4 million of improvements to support British Airways. We incentivize them for the first 2 years that they're here by providing marketing funds to them, waiving landing fees, providing them with rent abatement as we go, but we're also building a $7 million catering facility so that you eat good food when you get onto British Airways. Now that's an investment in our infrastructure because we hope to add more international flights in the next couple of years. How do we fund your airport? First of all, we don't ask for any money from the city. We don't get any money from the state general fund. We basically, as an airport authority, when it was created in 1970 from the state and the city, we basically are our own little business and we are told to raise our own revenue. So we have 3 sources of revenue primarily that we generate. And of the items that you see there, normally we're generating about $128 to $130 million a year in revenue, and it's basically divided into thirds. The airlines help us generate about a third of that revenue by charging them rent and landing fees as we move forward. The concessions, you need to buy hot dogs and hamburgers when you come to the airport. That helps pay our bills, rent cars, and park. So park, shop, and fly at the airport, and you're helping us to make these improvements. The improvements that we'll talk about again are funded entirely by airport revenue and the bonds that we'll take out. And so we'll do general airport revenue bonds that basically pledge our revenue as we go forward. Here's the challenge that I mentioned earlier in terms of the growth that we've seen since 1992 to today. On the far left side of the screen where you see the 1992 and there's a little circle we used to be a hub for American Airlines during that time period. Well, being a hub, what that meant is that 80% of the passengers just went through the airport. They never got outside the airport. Only 20% of those passengers were really generated here from Nashville. So you build an airport differently if they never get off your airplane. Just like Atlanta is a huge hub. Most people that go in through Atlanta are going somewhere else. So you've got to have a different set of infrastructure as we go. And the airport has grown. It took 21 years after American Airlines left until 2013 for us to go above 10.3 million. So every year since 2003, the Nashville Airport has been setting new records every year in terms of passenger enplanements. But what's happened during this 25-year period is we've changed from a hub type market to an origin and destination. So now about 85% of all passengers that arrive or depart Nashville are visiting Nashville. Only 15% are coming into Nashville and going on to some other destination. So that's why we have to make some of the improvements that I'm about to go through with you here in just a second. This is the growth curve as we go forward. So we are trying to do a better job of forecasting what does the economic conditions look like in Nashville. So we're at 14.1 million passengers today. We're focused on that 17 million. When I finish all this construction that we're going to talk about today, we'll be at 17 million passenger. And we think the best forecasting that we can do, shows that by the year 2041, we'll be at 23 million passengers moving through this airport. So that's the reason to add another 500,000 square feet of terminal space and additional parking that we're going to go through right now. Back up one. If you look at that little asterisk that you see up there, what that's really trying to show you is despite the best efforts, we do a master plan every 5 years. And the master plan covers 20-year periods, and it's broken up into 4 5-year blocks. Despite the best forecasting, the FAA watches us and sees that we grow on a conservative path. And we weren't supposed to hit 14 million passengers until 2022. But Nashville is growing much greater than the 3.5% that normal airports grow at. We've been hitting 10, 11, 9% over the last year. So that's the reason for the B&A vision. And we'll talk about that on the next slide. A picture in the top right of that slide is of our board chairman, Bobby Joslin. Many of you probably know him. I'm very blessed to work for him and the other 9 board of commissioners. It's an all-volunteer position. They're appointed by the mayor, and I would just tell you they work very hard. They work us very hard, and they care about the airport, and they really care about the city. And I'm blessed that they support our leadership and our decisions that we're working forward. So how are we going to make this airport bigger? Okay, I'm going to run you through a couple of slides, and what I'm really trying to do is build you a jigsaw puzzle right now. So this is the airport in 2016 when we started looking at this growth and trying to figure out what do we have to do to keep up with this growth. You see 2 yellow blocks there. The big yellow block on the left is the new parking garage. It'll finish in August of this year. It has about 2,400 parking spaces. The bottom level of that garage is got a large ceiling height so that we can handle any type of bus rapid transit or any type of large convention type buses in and out of there. But it'll have a parking guidance system, and it'll be state-of-the-art security and customer convenience wise. In the top right corner of that slide is a little sliver. We just finished an $8 million upgrade to our international arrival facility just for Southwest. That's not part of the $10 million that we talked about already, but this facility basically doubles our throughput now. It's all automated. If you go to the Caribbean or South America or Mexico on any of our leisure travels, when you come back, you can go right through with a mobile passport or global entry and those kind of things and just whiz right through there. You no longer have to recheck your bag. You'll go down a new corridor to baggage claim. But those two things one is under construction and one is already finished. And if you'll notice as we go forward, keep looking at the picture towards the center of the airport, because that's what we're going to end up basically replacing. We just awarded another contract for $200 and some million to add a new Concourse D. That basically gives us those 6 additional gates that I talked about earlier, growing from 43 to 49 gates. But there's also 2 nodes just off to the center that's the new ticketing areas. So when you come in the airport today and you look at, there's American on the left and Delta on the right, that'll all be gone. They'll be off to your left and to your right. And you'll be going straight ahead to new security lanes. So we'll move the airlines off to the left and to the right, and you'll see why in just a second. We're gonna, as soon as the new garage is up, we're gonna take down the existing garage that you see right there. It's a 3-story garage and it holds about 2,000 spaces as well. We'll take the concrete from that garage and stick it in that big hole that you see on the top of the slide. It's a 13-acre site, 55,000 dump trucks full of fill material needed to fill that up. And that's what you're gonna use to park the future international flights that start coming into Nashville. So one garage is complete, take down the other garage, use it to fill in that hole, and we've got other sites that we're gonna end up pulling fill material from to be able to do that. Once that garage is down, we'll start building a bigger garage. On top of that garage, we'll have an office complex, because where we are today in the airport, and our offices are over those American and Delta ticket counters, that'll be no more. It'll be a beautiful arena like you see here when you walk into the international airport. So the 4th floor is gone, all the ticket counters are gone, and what we're making room for is additional security. So our offices will move out on top of that garage, and we hope to have a hotel at this time. Initially, we were gonna fund the hotel ourselves, but after we've done some financial analysis, we're not gonna focus on us funding the hotel. We're gonna try to go out and look for public and private partnerships to build a hotel on top of that garage. But that garage will come back as the 3-story garage that I took down will come back to be a 5 to 6-story garage and have 5,000 spaces. So there will now be 7,000 spaces within a few feet of the front door of the terminal. Once that hole is fixed in or filled in, it'll become a work area for us, because this next phase is the new international arrival facility. That's where all the future jets will come and arrive and depart from Nashville. Across the front of that is 6 gates that'll service a growing international market that we see coming. We're gonna show you some renderings of that in the future, but what you're gonna see, if you can imagine, if you fly out of Nashville today, there's 10 security lanes. When we get done, there'll be 24 lanes across. So there'll be 24 security lanes to handle this large volume of passengers as we go through. And today, when you go through security, you go either left or right, and you see a nice glass wall. That glass wall is gonna be extended out 165 feet towards that hole. And where it looks like a hole today will be where the aircraft will be parking for the future international arrivals. Both of those projects, the garage with the hotel office complex on it, is approximately $300 million, and the new international arrival security facility is another $300 or $350 million as we build those. Mass transit. I hope that everybody goes out and votes on May 1st for the transit initiative. We are building this garage, and both of the garages that you see on those screens will have elevated ground floors so that we can handle any type of bus transportation that the city chooses to use in the future. Also, the top level of that garage will be stressed to be able to support its own train station on top. The airport has, with FAA concurrence at 8 other airports, been able to fund its own transit stations. We're allowed to use airport money to build that. So if the referendum passes, what you could expect from the airport is you'll be able to arrive on a train to a train station that's built by the airport. And then as you see that little rendering right there, you'll basically get on the train. It'll make a right turn and go south on Donaldson to the Murfreesboro Road. So that's 2.1 miles of airport property, and that's where we would link into the city. If the city builds a train station or rail line out Murfreesboro Road, we'll come out, head south down Donaldson, and T-bone into that. And there'll be a transfer station. We're allowed to pay for that. Our estimates, that's between 130 and 160 million. Occasionally you'll see some stuff on the transit side of the house saying it's as high as $200 million. But we're committed to whatever it takes to make it easier for our passengers to get to and from the airport. You know, we do shuttle buses today, we do taxis, we do limos. We were the first airport in the US to do Uber and Lyft in October of 14. That's been wildly successful. They make 85,000 trips a month to the airport to drop passengers off. And the next step will be some sort of light rail system or bus rapid transit. And so we're building it regardless of what the referendum has. We won't build the track unless the referendum passes, but the garage will be structurally sound enough so that somewhere in the future CEO 20 years from now won't have to go back and reinforce that garage. So that's what we're building. Here's a couple renderings, and I want to make sure that I'm not talking too long, but this is what the train line would come in, and you'd be able to park the train right there in between the hotel and the office complex, and then you will walk across an elevated bridge into the terminal. You won't have to fight getting across a crosswalk or traffic anymore. You'll come across the roadway on that bridge covered by that canopy. The canopy basically is 200 feet wide, 600 feet long, and basically it starts where you would get off the train or the hotel or the office complex or the parking center, and you'll be able to walk without getting wet if it's raining and enter the airport, and that roof just continues all the way to that new international facility that we talked about. And lastly, that's what it looks like in 5 years. In 2023, when we open this up, if an international airplane pulls up, you can see on the second level of that rendering, little people. They're the ones that are getting ready to fly nonstop to London. If you arrive from London, you'll come in, go downstairs, get processed through customs, and then through a tunnel to ground transportation, and then you're off to Nashville. So that is a little bit about what we're planning. I apologize if I've gone too fast for you. If you want more information on B&A Vision and how we're spending money and what's the next project, you can go to our website, and there's a really cool virtual reality tour that you could take a look at. And if you're traveling through the airport and you do lose your bag, there's my contact information. You can give me a call. It's not an uncommon occurrence. I don't personally pick you out for a pat down or I purposely lose your bag. But if you do have a problem at the airport, you can give me a call and I'll be glad to answer any of your questions. And that's all I have for now. And I think we're going to meet with a couple of our
Doug, it's great to have you with us. War Eagle.
War Eagle.
Our youngest son, and most of our money went to Auburn, so I do that wherever I can. Adam, it's great to have you.
We can do that about 10, 15 minutes for you. So.
Adam, it's great to have you this morning. I'm sorry Kate's not feeling well, but welcome to Lipscomb also. Why don't you take the first question?
Yeah, Doug, you touched on this a little bit there toward the end, but articulate, if you could, your argument for mass transit. And as running the airport, do you see it as is it a customer issue? Is it a workforce issue for you? How does that manifest itself?
I think it's a combination of both. We are trying to do whatever we can at the airport to make your travel experience better. We're not experts in, rail transportation. We've done a lot of studying on this, but if our community adopts that, we want to be able to make sure that we can provide that service to them. So the other side of the house, the airport authority itself has a staff of about 300, but there's over 4,000 people that work at the airport. So depending on where this rail line expands to, you could easily see, employees using that as well. And then just from personal experience, when I lived in Germany, visited England, lived in Japan, lived at the Pentagon, I used the train and I used the metro to get to and from work. So I could easily see Nashville growing to that. I don't know if they're ready yet, but we'll see after the referendum.
Let's stay on the subject of transit long enough to really drill into a little bit more detail about how the airport authority is organized and help us understand how that works in the context of you borrowing what I think is $1 billion plus. You used a lot of different numbers, but I think if you add it up, it's about $1 billion, $1.2 billion.
Correct.
Which, interestingly enough, is more than we spend on the Music City Center. So this is a big deal.
It is.
However, it's less than we're contemplating spending on transit, and we're in a huge argument about that. So help us understand why this is so easy with the airport and apparently is so difficult with Metro Transit.
Okay. First of all, on the Music City Center side of the house, I've talked to Charles Starks, introduced myself to him a couple times, and he's pointed out that it was $560-some million to build the MCC, and we're doing about twice that at the airport. He tells me my biggest challenge is the fact that we're going to stay open for business. So he had a 4 or 5 block area that he had to develop. We're going to have to keep moving these passengers through. The airport authority, when it was created, as I mentioned earlier, in 1970, basically it's quasi-governmental in the sense that the state and the city sponsored it, but basically it's set up so that it operates like a business. So everything that I do at that airport, I have to, pay my own way. So I have to generate revenue, I can apply for federal grants, and that's one of the things that's different, between the transit. You have to vote for a tax increase. I don't get a tax increase, so I have to generate my own revenue. I have to build the airport within the means that I have available. So we receive the revenue that we talked about earlier, plus passenger facility charges. Everybody that flies through pays $4.50 on their ticket, and as I collect that revenue, that's what I back those bonds that we'll borrow from. And so that's how we basically guarantee that we can pay back those bonds. And additionally, one other thing on the, without getting too technical on the airport side of the house, all of these federal grants that we receive come with this FAA book, 5190.6, I think it is, 697 pages of how to do airport financing. But what it tells you is we have to sign grant assurances. And one of those grant assurances is I'm not allowed to use revenue that I generate at the airport for anything that doesn't benefit our customers. That's why I only pay for my portion of transit, which would be the 2.1 miles in that train station. That makes it legal in the FAA's mind, and that's what we're doing on behalf of the customers that come in and out of the airport.
Okay.
When the airport's about to be talking to some potential investment firms that would back those bonds, or even when you are perhaps fielding questions from employees about the fairly recent executive shakeup, the lawsuit that the former CEO has filed, what is your messaging around that? What is your response to that?
Yeah, great question. I've received a bunch of questions. I've met in the transition period that we've been going through the last 5 to 6 months. I've met with the employees at the airport 4 different times and reassured them, what I'm trying to do as the new CEO, reassuring them of what the Board of Commissioners is asking us to do, and I outlined 3 big basic priorities for them. We have 3 goals: invest in M&AA, people, procedures, policies that we need to do to make sure that we run an efficient organization, plan for the future so that we don't get behind, in growth as we go forward, and prepare for the unexpected. We'll have a mass emergency drill here on March 24th. It's a Saturday here where we'll simulate a crash at the airport. But preparing for the unexpected is similar to, I've already met with NES and Metro Water. If the water supply shut off to the airport, if we had an electrical problem like Atlanta did. So the employees understand what's happening right now, with the lawsuit and with the change in leadership, and I think they understand where we're headed in the future.
Now, you did mention the fact that we actually have 2 airports in Nashville, I believe.
You bet.
Tell us about the second one.
As the airport authority, I'm responsible for both airports, the B&A, which everybody is familiar with and we just got done talking about, but the second airport that the authority manages is John C. Toon. It's a wonderful airport on the opposite side, so we're 6 miles this way. The other, John C. Toon, is 6 miles on the west side of the city. We just spent about $30 million extending its runway to 6,000 feet over the last couple years, and the business side of the house is really growing at John C. Toon. In fact, we're trying to figure out a way to raise the capital to build a control tower out there because it's basically the largest GA general aviation airport in the state of Tennessee.
But there's no plan for scheduled service there.
No.
It's all private aviation.
No, it serves as a reliever airport for B&A, so we encourage corporate jets and general aviation traffic to fly there. That way they don't interfere with the commercial traffic.
I think we've all seen a lot of hotels crop up around the city the last couple of years and more in the pipeline. Talk a little bit more about why you want to see a hotel built right there at that on-site.
Couple reasons, primarily a customer convenience side of the house. When we have diversions, late night problems, airplanes break occasionally and you can't get out, some of our customers, would love to have an airport hotel to be able to go there. Additionally, after 9/11, we have put all of our facilities and customer conveniences after security checkpoint. So if you're prior to the security checkpoint, we don't have a real restaurant offering, and businesses also call us a lot of times wanting to use conference space for an in and out airport meeting and then move on. And so a hotel would allow us to provide, a short night stay if they needed to, food, and conference facilities that we don't currently have. And when we looked at it too, we've talked to everybody and their brother downtown and hoteliers as well, because we're not going to take away downtown business. Of the 46,000 rooms in our regional area, our 300-room hotel would be 0.2%. So we're a blip on the radar. It's really about customer convenience for us.
We're rapidly running out of time here. Everybody seems to be really interested in this train downtown. So let me come back to that for just 1 second. I was a little bit surprised to hear you say that there had to be a transfer between the airport and downtown. Does that mean I will have to get off the train, take my bags with me, get onto another train before I can get downtown if I'm using the transit?
I don't know that we're that far along to be able to answer that.
Okay.
In the design side of the house. The train could come up Murfreesboro and make a left turn and come right up Donaldson, stop, and go back. It's how do they want to run the train? A large number of the airports are actually part of the route system for a transit station, but I might be able to build a simpler people mover system that just moves from the terminal there. And so imagine you're coming up Murfreesboro at ground level. The train runs right on the ground and hits a station. If you've been to Woodbridge in Virginia or any of those other stations, sometimes you get off one train, go up a level, and get on the next station. So it could go either way. I don't think we're far enough in the design to be able to say that.
Last question. I came back from Hong Kong not long ago. I checked my bag downtown.
Yep.
Got on a train, no luggage, just carry on.
Yep.
Got off at the airport, went through security, got on the plane, and didn't see the luggage again until I got to America.
Right.
Can you ever see anything like that in Nashville where we could do that, let's say at the Music City Center, and go straight to the airport?
If Bob Miles, the CEO of Bags Inc., made you ask that question, he's sitting back over there. But we have been working for the city with the city hoteliers for about 3 years trying to convince them of that. In the new garages that you saw on those slides, we have planned to do what we call remote baggage check-in. We're trying to convince the hotels to do the same thing, that when you check out of your hotel, we want Nashville to be a bags-free city. So when you check out of your hotel, your bag's done at the checkout counter, and it gets shipped automatically to the airport, very much like the Walt Disney experience does in Orlando. Okay. And the reverse would be true. You could fly in from a flight, and we have been advocating that when you arrive on your flight, you just get off the flight and go home. Your bag could be delivered to your hotel, to your home, or wherever your destination is, to make it that hassle-free travel. Just like Disney does it today. All the people that are staying downtown in Nashville, they all have to check out by 11 or 1 o'clock. What are they going to do, drag a bag for 5 hours until their 6 p.m. flight? If they could check their bag, they could do more shopping downtown Nashville. Sure. So we have been advocating for that, and we're building the facilities to be able to handle that.
Just convince me. I'm voting yes on May
Great.
1st.
Okay.
So, you got one last question?
Yeah, not to sort of overlook the fact that we've landed nonstop overseas service, brought that back for the first time in 2 decades plus, but what would be some of your next international targets that you have in mind, and what sort of rough timeline or expectation do you envision for when those might materialize?
Well, we're always working on it. Trudy, our Director of Air Service Development, is on the road nonstop. She just came back from South America looking for opportunities there. My personal belief is there's other European destinations that may look at Nashville and think that a nonstop service is there. We were really close to doing WOW Airlines with to Keflavik, Iceland. The beauty of British Airways right now, it's the busiest airport in Europe, and when you arrive in London Heathrow, there's 180 new destinations you can go to that aren't served here. So Europe is the closest. It's an 8-hour flight. It's much longer to Asia. We would love to have that nonstop to Narita, Japan, but we got to figure out a way to make sure that they're successful and that airplane is filled. So we have some challenges out there. We'll keep working on them, but we're definitely building the facilities so that when you arrive Nashville in the future, you'll look out that security checkpoint and you ought to see 6 aircraft from overseas pointing at that's your welcome to Nashville, right front door.
Doug, you're doing a great job. Thanks for coming this morning. We're just delighted to have you here.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Greatly appreciate what you're doing for our city today and greatly appreciate the vision you have for the future. It's very exciting to see this infrastructure grow, which will be so valuable to all of us for decades to come. It's been said that travel is the only thing that you can buy that makes you richer. And if you think about that, it's really profound in terms of the opportunities that we've seen this morning with our airport. The opportunity to experience the riches of travel and what that does for us as a city. As I think of many of my friendships with the people in this room and across Nashville, much of that has come as a result of traveling outside of Nashville. As we think about educating students and educating your future workforce, a key part of that is getting them away from Nashville and giving them an experience across the globe. In doing so, and as people come back after having those incredible experiences and experiencing the riches of travel, we will become a city that is far more globally competent, is ready to join the world stage in a much more profound way. And what we've seen this morning is all of this concrete that Doug talks about is critically important in terms of opening the doors to these riches, which will create business opportunities for us, which will create cultural opportunities for us, and will position us to become a much stronger city into the future. And so we look forward to sharing that journey with you. We look forward to seeing you back here the morning of Friday, April 20th for the next Nashville Business Breakfast, which will feature our U.S. Senator Bob Corker. Until then, take care and travel well.